Raymond Ram, thanks for this. I'd first like to ask you about what you do, financial forensics. Apparently, there's a difference between financial experts, accountants, but let's start with financial forensics.
Thanks, Gerard. Of course, I'm a managing principal of Grey Matter Forensic Advisory. Here we provide consultancy and training in the area of financial fraud investigations, or we can say financial fraud risk assessment, investigations, and also response procedures. Here, the focus at our place here would be, of course, prevention, detection, and response to any fraud-related incidences that take place within organizations by their internal employees or external parties.
Now, the field or what you're doing has evolved so much with COVID-19. Most fields, most industries have evolved. How busy are people in your industry at this point with regards to where we are with the COVID situation and where Malaysia is?
Again, the challenge is this. When it comes to the field of financial forensics, we have to bring about different facets of expertise. And this includes criminal investigation skills, financial auditing skills, IT security, and even data science to some extent. And of course, with the pandemic now, we know that it's an environment ripe for fraud, right? We understand that fraud happens when there's opportunity, pressure, and rationalization that comes along. And when the economy and also day-to-day business is down at its knees, we know that this environment will continuously push to people towards committing such devious acts or devious behavior. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Now, when you look at kids coming out of school, leaving, going into college, looking for a career path, most of them would want to go down the road of a lawyer, doctor, engineer, so on and so forth. How sexy is financial forensics to kids moving into university or moving to tertiary education? Is there a good take-up rate? Is there interest in the field and industry?
I believe if you look at developed countries, and of course Malaysia, with the current number of scandals, the current number of issues that we are facing, it's definitely a growing field, and we need expertise from different facets, like I mentioned earlier. So you can go into law, you can go into accountancy, you can go into IT, and later on move towards the area of forensics as an area of expertise or specialty. And we would need these guys or these experts moving forward to ensure that our nation and even companies here are protected, in a sense, from this such a behavior.
Right. Just to whet the appetite of all of us who are watching into this program, how bad is the situation with regards to the number of cases that you're seeing and the number of investigations that need to be carried out with regards to scams and frauds in the country?
You see, when we faced the shock of moving towards working from home from early of last year, we saw a huge rise of scams, fraud, and even cybercrime to some extent. And we have been seeing the tilt towards money laundering being done when it comes to digital transactions. Now, the field is evolving, and we need more people to come on board. We need the expertise, and our duty here is to educate those that are on the front lines, even those that are in charge of governance of companies, to ensure they are well equipped when it comes to protecting the organization, protecting the assets that they are the custodians of.
Mm-hmm. So now if we say that someone needs to be well equipped with regards to the field and training, so on and so forth, what are the fundamentals of, or what are the basics one needs to have before entering the industry and working professionally or taking this as a career path? So the way I'm looking at it, or the way I'm reading this, is even if you're an accountant, there are a couple of other skill sets that you need to be equipped with. If you're a lawyer, you need to have certain skill sets to be equipped with doing financial forensics. So what is the baseline skill set for one wanting to get into the industry at this point?
Again, like I mentioned earlier, you can come in from different facets of, like I said, even if you have done law, you've done accountancy, or even IT security. The idea is to ensure you understand the context of our environment, understand our laws, understand the basics of criminal investigation, the do's and don'ts. Of course, even if you have auditing techniques and specialties, would be great to add to your skill set as well.
Mhm. Now, the other thing you're talking about where we are at this point, when you take a look at companies that need to keep an eye on what's happening with their financials or what's happening with their accounts, so on and so forth, what can those in charge do to safeguard assets of the company? What can they do to mitigate the risk of financial crime? Saying, if I own a company, what can I do to mitigate this risk? And what is the role of financial forensic experts moving forward at a time like this?
The first thing is this. For internal controls of any company, the main backbone of it are risk assessments. Conduct your risk assessments, ensure that those in charge understand what are the type of schemes that are taking place out there at the moment, what are red flags of those schemes that are taking place, what are types of preventive measures that you can put in place in order to mitigate this risk. That's why hence we at Grey Matter are trying our best to educate these guys in the field to ensure that they take note of these instances and have in mind the industry best practices and type of preventive measures they can put in place in order to mitigate those risks, and at the same time not deter productivity as well.
Mm-hmm. So to not deter productivity, I guess, like you said, you need to equip people with what they need at this point in order to do what they do, and you keep talking about the system you and your organization use to facilitate this. Do these systems differ from one company to the other? People who are on the ground training other people. Do you have a different system as opposed to another company that's doing what you do here in Malaysia or even in Southeast Asia?
Again, just to reiterate, risk assessments are the key towards understanding the context of your organization based on the industry that you're in and the inherent risk posed to your industry. What are the type of schemes that you need to look into, even if there's reports of schemes that are taking place within the industry that has happened to other companies. So first, understand where you lie, what is the context of your organization, then move towards having training based on the position of that person within the company, the functions that are included within that organization, based on their skill sets, based on their day-to-day operations. It has to be focused based on your industry, your organization, the function of the individual, and also the skill sets that's required.
Now, how do you conduct an investigation of a company, for instance? How risky is a job, especially when it comes to dealing with a lot of syndicates and stuff like that? And I'm sure that there's a lot of these that you see within the industry. So how do you conduct an investigation of a company which is risky, and there's an element of risk with regards to your investigators going in?
Again, when we conduct investigation, it is a mutual agreement, okay, between us and the client. When we go in, if there are cases of criminal nature that we need to bring up to law enforcement, we are required to do so. And if those things come about, then we would need to pull ourselves back. But in most instances, we are working based on the evidence, the data that is provided to us. We conduct the analysis, we provide the legal aspects or legal angle to come from when you bring such cases to court. And this is when we provide this is how exactly we provide our services. And at the end of the day, we back off after providing our reports.
Right. With businesses that are heavily evolving, like you said earlier in the interview, I see one area. So we've got this area which is growing exponentially the world over, and we're talking about gaming. Name PUBG, what do you call it? Arena of Valor. You got your casual games. You've got such a huge gaming industry for teenagers and even for adults. And there's a lot of money involved in this. And I guess there's a lot of investigation that's also needed. How deep are we into stuff like this in Malaysia? Are we still skimming the surface, or do we know a little bit more about what's going on in these very new industries?
A very good question. We are actually providing a number of consultancy services and also training to telcos and financial institutions. Now, the concern here personally for me is the advent of e-wallets and how it is being regulated at the moment. We have the risk of money laundering that can take place. Syndicates can easily take advantage of these e-wallets that come about with online gaming. So we need to look into know your customer, KYC policies, customer due diligence, understand who exactly is behind those profiles, whether the monies that are being deposited and transferred out make sense based on the service that they are procuring. If it does not, immediate suspicion needs to be raised to the relevant authorities.
Right. So I understand your concerns, but if we take a country, let's look at best practices, or at least what we think is the best practice. Let's look at China. China has gone full on e-wallet. They use an e-wallet for anything. How does a country like China then ensure that the processes are kept in line with the law?
I mean, it's sad to say that sometimes we are quite reactive in nature, right? So we got to look at our regulatory landscape. We got to look at what incidences comes about and then react to it instead of taking proactive actions. But definitely it's best to take example of these countries and the way they are managing it, look into their regulatory environment and suit with our current policy procedures, whether we can adopt certain controls that they have put in. Of course, we can go online. It's not that we can't. We need the right controls. We need right accountability. We need the right policies in place in order to have these things moving forward without having the risk of financial crime coming into play.
Right, we've got about 120 seconds left. So that's about 2 minutes, I think. For those wanting to take this up as a career, what would be your advice or your tip to those of us who want to take this up? There's a lot of shifts happening within different fields, and people want to take up different career paths, and also kids coming out of school want to think of something else. Now, what would be your advice?
It's just basically your passion. If you're passionate in this area, there are many certifications that you can come about. One of it would be the Certified Fraud Examiners that provide CFE credentials, the Certified Anti-Money Laundering Specialist, the CAMS, which focuses on money laundering. Again, the whole idea of being a financial forensic expert is to bring about different expertise when it comes to prevention, detection, and response to fraud-related matters. You can come from the legal environment, you can come from the IT environment, you can come from the accounting field, right? But we need to know how to manage all these skill sets together in order to produce the end result, in order to bring those that have offended to the right cause.
Right. With that, Raymond, thank you very much for the insights on financial forensics. A lot to, of course, unpack with regards to this. We do hope to have another interview with you right here on The Nation. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Thank you.
Bye.